There's a really interesting new night scalper on the marketplace called the Golden Knights EA. So this kind of joins the family of night scalping robots, which has been popping up recently trading gold. And I find this pretty interesting because around a year ago, I was inspired by some of Valerie Trading's bots, like like Night Hunter is one of them, and they have an evening scalper as well, to make some of my own night scalping bots on gold. And I was curious at the time that it wasn't a very prevailing or prevalent strategy. But since then, I've seen a lot of other people create night scalpers on gold. So I think other people have had the same idea that I had, that if it works with all these currencies, gold, which has very favorable volatility in the evening, so like not overly volatile conditions, but still enough movement to make money in the evening, can be the ideal pair for this. And we've seen like a few different bots apply this strategy, one of which is Varco, I believe, and now we're seeing the Golden Knights one here. And this is a classic, very good strategy. The one downside is it tends to have an incredibly inverted risk reward, but as long as the positive expected value is there, there can definitely be some applications to it. So let's take a look at this one and see how it differs from some of its competitors in the marketplace. And really, like night scalping on gold or night scalping in general, it's a very straightforward strategy. Like price generally doesn't move that much in the evening hours around New York close, just because just from a time zone perspective, most major traders are either asleep or about to go home, if like more the American and Canadian traders. Therefore, you tend to see a fairly flat period of price action where price moves sideways. Therefore, using some sort of mean reversion indicator, if you see price kind of going away from the average of where it should be, it can present a very good either buying or shorting opportunity, depending on if it's overextended or overbought. And it works, and it's a very good strategy, and there's a strong logical premise behind it. So here in particular, like what makes this bot different? It appears to be like using a few different like time settings. I know those are all pretty straightforward. It has a recovery function, which makes it a little bit different. So that is something which you might not see in some other types of bots. Not exactly. Sometimes there's a use case for it, but recovery you have to be a little bit careful with because it's more challenging to set and forget if you're using that, because that typically implies some degree of lot scaling. Clearly it's a night scalper because also there is a time-based filter here, and it's rather important to get the times right. And here it also discusses that you can use it for prop firm challenges. I personally would find that this type of system is pretty tough on prop firms, just because you often need a lot of leverage. And what that means is, like, if you are using a tiny take profit with a massive stop loss, usually you enter with a fairly large lot size. So on certain prop firm accounts, like one phase, for instance, you oftentimes are fairly heavily limited on the amount of leverage you have, particularly with gold and or indices. And because of this type of scalping system tends to be a bit more challenging to run. And that's why I have found that my own prop trading, using more high risk reward, lower leverage systems work better. But for personal capital, some people love this type of bot. Particularly if you sell bots, it's a lot easier to sell high risk reward bots because people hate taking losers. And even if like a winner is 4 times bigger than a loser, a lot of people would much rather win 95% of the time and just have massive losses. But to each their own, right? So this can be a very good system nonetheless. So let's take a look at a few of the signals here. We can see that yes, it has the classic equity curve which you would see with this type of system. This is the low risk one where we have like a massive string of winners, pretty much no losers. And then when a loser happens, it's pretty hefty. And the same thing here with the other signal where you have a huge string of winners and then you have a couple losers. But here his stop loss actually does appear to be relatively okay. So like you're not blowing the entire account with a stop loss. And that's actually a big competitive factor for this bot relative to some other ones. Because I know, for instance, Varco, after my review, they had some issues because they hit the stop loss, and the stop loss was absolutely enormous. Whereas here, it appears that his stop loss is big, but it's not like catastrophic either. So we're seeing actually some pretty consistent returns, and that's actually pretty impressive to see. So overall, it actually looks like a fairly well thought out night scalper. So now let's jump into the MT5 tester here, where I've taken the liberty of running this back test, and you can see Golden Knights right here. And if we look at the backtest statistics, to be expected, we're seeing some very, very high win rate of around 95%, and we're also seeing that the average profit trade is quite a bit smaller than the average loss trade. One thing to note is he's not going short. And that's actually a pretty big consideration. Gold has been in a very strong uptrend until recently. Therefore, only going long would give you a significant bias in your favor and would make the backtest look better. Because if gold is generally going up and you use an enormous stop loss, you're far more likely to actually hit your take profit. So you are introducing an element of overfitting there if you assume that gold, because you're essentially overfitting to the fact that gold has been in a massive uptrend recently. However, now that we're seeing a bit of maybe some negotiations on the tariff front and the overall market risk environment may be improving, that is something to be mindful of. If you have a long only bot and it's not like a go long strategy like Longbow, or I know Rene Balke has something similar, which is based on you're essentially taking advantage of an asset that largely goes up. You have to be careful about only going long, because this is not a trend following model. This is a night scalper. So for a night scalper, you typically would look to see both longs and shorts, because there's no reason why you should only be going long. So this seems like a little bit of overfitting to the previous market regime. So you have to be a bit careful about that. So one of the reasons why we could be seeing such spectacular performance so far is because he is slightly overfitting to that. So just be mindful of that. It's good strategy nonetheless. He could very well have a great reasoning for that, but just be a bit careful that if he's only going only going long, and gold all of a sudden goes into a downtrend, this could be not great for the strategy's performance. So now let's take a look at these tabs. We can see that there's clearly an inverted risk reward here. The stop loss is around $230, and we're seeing that the trailing stop start is 26. So we're seeing roughly a 1 to 10 inverted risk reward. Kind of as I noted that it's been doing particularly well, so we're not seeing that heavy of an inverted risk reward in the actual statistics. But if you were to run it live for a long enough period of time, that could actually end up happening if we don't have the benefit of being in a strong uptrend for gold. So just keep that in mind too. Let's run ourselves a back test here, and we can see that it's nice and simple. There's probably some sort of indicator which is hard-coded in it. We're not seeing the indicators right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's Bollinger Band based, maybe ATR, maybe some sort of ATR more for stop loss, or maybe an RSI or some sort of oscillator. But nonetheless, it is trading. It is a night scalper, so we can see from the times it's always entering at a pretty similar time. And this would be, it's actually entering almost always at the same time. It's a bit odd. Oh, maybe it's not indicator based, because the entry is literally exactly at the same time every single time. Oh, wow. Okay. So it's always just buying. Okay, this actually looks kind of flawed. Let me keep running this, because it doesn't appear to be, oh yeah, okay, that's not ideal. That actually looks like it might be dangerous, because if he's just always randomly buying in the evening, it looks like a night scalper. But then you're really taking advantage of the fact that gold is essentially just going up. Oh yeah, okay, so I would be careful with that. Okay guys, so pardon me for my rambling, but I think there's some more information coming out here. Typically in a night scalper, you would have some sort of technical indicator to guide why you're entering a trade. So you would wait for, let's say you want to go long for something to become oversold, and maybe an RSI telling you to buy. And then you would enter and you'd wait for a return to the mean and you'd take a profit. But here, he just seems to be blindly entering every single day at the exact same time, at 23 o'clock, right? So that is really not great, because he's pretty much entering every day at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and just going long. And he's going long with an enormous stop loss, and because gold has been going up, he's been doing well. But if gold starts going down all of a sudden, we enter a downtrend, this bot is probably going to blow. Or maybe not blow, but just not be profitable. So unless I'm missing something, the fact that he doesn't really seem to be having a trigger, he's just always entering at exactly the same time and hoping that it keeps going up, I'm not so sure how well it's going to work if we enter a downtrend. So maybe that's my review for today. So far, it's actually pretty impressive. Performance has been pretty good, but he's really relying on the fact that gold's been going up. So if gold doesn't go up, I think the performance could change pretty quickly. So guys, let me know if you have any differing opinions on this. Always like to hear from you, and have yourselves a great day.